With this, I would like to invite our senior journalist and the former readers editor of The Hindu, through S Panneerselvan, to address the event.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Pugar. Thank you, Dharani. Thank you, my fellow panelists, Mr. Jawahar and Mr. Darka. See, when we started thinking about the idea of federalism, the issue which was disturbing us was Article 356. Article 356 reduced most states into some sort of a dependency on the center. But after the Bombay judgment, we thought that some sort of a federal balance has been completely established. And when Justice Venkatachalaya Committee's recommendation again reiterated that the basic structure of the constitution is not going to be tampered with, we again believe that there is certain amount of stability. This assumption is the one which is under severe strain today. As Mr. Sarkar said earlier, nobody anticipated the abrogation of the Article 370. But the most important aspect of the abrogation of the Article 370 is a state has been reduced to a status of 2 union territories. Therefore, what is the idea of these constituent elements? If we are going to be talking about federalism, we have to understand that these constituent elements need certain amount of certainty. And that certainty cannot be played around. And that's where I think that judiciary has to become much more active and much more assertive. And the fact that judiciary is not taking up the abrogation of the Article 370 case is very disturbing. At some level, the journey from Bombay case, where Article 356 cannot be arbitrarily used, to have abrogation of an article like 370 is extremely disturbing. And if somebody who has read a person like A.G. Noorani, it's very, very clear that abrogating Article 370 means we are actually tampering with the Constitution itself, because it is tying up to Article 1 and Article 35. And why are the court silent about it? That is the first extremely disturbing one, because we are not sure of our unit itself. Is a unit called state a stable one, or it is subjected to the whims and fancies of people sitting in Delhi? Is it going to be like the real estate called the Central Vista, which can be altered? That's the first disturbing question what we have in mind. And there we would like to have some sort of a confirmation from higher judiciary saying that certain units are stable and they cannot be played around with. We always talk about a formula for sharing of resources between center and state. But if you are not going to be even a state, if you are going to be reduced to a union territory, your status itself is not going to be stable. What are the signals which we are sending out to these states? That's the first disturbing question what we have. And next one is, as Mr. Pugar Gandhi said earlier, wherever there is an interlocking public of more than 2 departments or 2 lists are coming together, they invoke the provisions from the concurrent list or from the central list to implement decisions on subjects which are clearly in the state list. And this is where the idea of cooperative federalism is under such a severe strain. The fundamental element of cooperative federalism is dialogue. Dialogue is different from dominance dependency. What we are witnessing from 2014 is dominance dependency rather than a dialogue and negotiation. There is no dialogue, there is no negotiation, but there is a top-down approach which is happening. And this top-down approach, the problem is the union government fails to recognize wherever, even in the areas of neighborhood policies, when there was decentralization, it delivered. For instance, in the Farakka agreement with Bangladesh, it was very, very clear that it was then Bangladesh government agreed for certain provisions because it was negotiated by then West Bengal Chief Minister, Mr. Jyoti Basu. We had Prime Minister I.K. Gujral asking the Chief Minister to lead the negotiation. It was not done by some joint secretary sitting in Delhi. Therefore, the political weight contributed. And that political weight is also a manifestation of dialogue. What we are witnessing today is there is very little space for dialogue and there is a lot of space for dominance and dependency. This dominance dependency aspect, the other aspect is the way we nominate our governors. If we agree to that earlier position, even in the most restricted recommendation on the center-state relations, which is the Sarkari recommendations, there is a recommendation saying that the state government should be taken into consideration before appointing governors. But governors are being appointed only to destabilize this government, state governments. Governors are acting as viceroys. Therefore, we have to look at how certain institutions have been completely perverted from its original idea. That is the one which is putting severe strain on the states. It's not about not having a proper formula. There is a whole range of problems with the latest Finance Commission's recommendation. And the latest Finance Commission's recommendation also brings in defense under the division of money. Therefore, now what we have to do is, the earlier formula is not working. Earlier formula was very, very clear. We had a planning commission. We don't have planning commission any longer. Planning commission has been replaced by one Niti Aayog, which has no financial say. And then the only constitutional body through which a certain financial allocation is going to happen is Finance Commission, which is bringing in defense, which is outside the Finance Commission's purview within the divisible pool. And then you have the entire mess created due to GST. How much can a manufacturing state keep losing primarily because of the desire of the center to suck out the resources from the state? What is a fair division? Am I going to be penalized constantly for all my efficiency? Am I going to be penalized for my economic productivity? Am I going to be penalized for my ability to control the fertility rate? Am I going to be, see, Mr. Sarkar rightly pointed out that if you are going to decide on the number of parliamentarians based purely on population, southern states are going to lose out. That is essentially you are going to penalize for implementing the family planning program. And war. Family planning program is actually a metaphor of good governance. It deals with much bigger idea of gender justice. You're not reducing women to purely child-rearing machines. Therefore, a lower fertility rate actually at some level indicates some sort of a gender justice. Therefore, what we are witnessing is that in the name of centralization, it is launching of war against linguistic identity, political identity, gender identity, social justice, and financial justice. If it is going to be a five-pronged attack, I think the time has come for all the states to join together and say that we don't accept this. And it's also important for us to move to various courts and challenge quite a few provisions which are contra-constitutional. I'm very happy that the Madras High Court has admitted a petition which is challenging the 42nd Amendment. Though 42nd Amendment happened during the emergency, now I'm happy that the High Court has admitted a petition challenging that, because that is the first major centralizing act. I think we need to challenge these things in various high courts, and we need two-pronged attack. One is legally we have to challenge, another one is we need to form broader political alliances across the states, where each person should come up with the idea of their own history and their own political trajectories to assert their rights. See, I would like to actually quote what Mr. K.V. Reddy, who was a minister in the Justice Party's cabinet in 20 said. And what Mr. K.V. Reddy said in the Justice Cabinet is true today for some of the state ministers. This is what Mr. K.V. Reddy said. He said, I quote, "I was the Minister for Development without forest. I was Minister for Agriculture minus irrigation. As a Minister for Agriculture, I had nothing to do with administration of Madras Agriculturist Loan Act or the Madras Land Improvement Loans Act. Efficacy and efficiency of a Minister for Agriculture without having anything to do with irrigation, agricultural loans, land improvement loans, and famine relief can better be imagined than described." What he has said about agriculture and those things, we can actually now look at it in the form of our ability to raise revenue and our ability to have a proper taxation, and even the interest rates. Look at the capping of the interest rates. The capping of the interest rate has actually reduced our ability to mobilize savings internally. Who fixes these interest rates, and why are these interest rates so centrally fixed? And to tap all these things, or to top all these things, now there's an attempt to bring cooperatives under the union government. If they are going to bring cooperatives under the union government, I think that is the final death knell for the idea of federal arrangement. Cooperatives, see, when they were tampering the state rights, a lot of people did not realize that they are playing around with the state rights. But now if they want to control cooperatives directly, cooperatives are the richest institutions for providing immediate relief. Cooperatives are not seen purely in the terms of the money they mobilize. They are called richest because of their ability to provide instant and quicker relief. It's about the time, it's about the proximity, it's about the ability to deliver tailor-made reliefs. And the cooperatives cover sectors like handloom and a whole range of other micro and minimum, medium sectors and small sectors. If you are going to control that, what is this journey? In 1969, when Rajamanar Committee was formed to look at the center-state relations, and when they came out with their recommendations, they spoke about center having power over three areas: external affairs, defense, and currency. But today they want to make inroads not only into health and education, but they want to make inroad even into areas like cooperatives. And they have already brought in these legislations on farm laws, which are essentially the state laws. The entire farm subsidy or the farm support is a state subject. For instance, in this state, my state, the Tamil Nadu, one of the biggest outflow for the state is the farm subsidy. It's in the form of electrical subsidy, where the free power is given to the farmers. Farm subsidy is not only the fertilizer subsidy, which is routed through the chemical and fertilizer ministry. The fact that there is a proper administered prices mechanism, and there's the procurement of these grains, and the procurement of these grains are being distributed through PDS. The PDS and the APM, the administered prices mechanism, are part of a social justice program. And these social justice program cannot be trampled upon. People worked for it for nearly 100 years. So what we are witnessing is that are we on the verge of losing what we got by struggling for nearly 100 years. And that's what is really disturbing. And look at that formulas issue. The struggle is going on continuously. And the struggle is not really far. It's right outside Delhi. Despite the struggle is being just right outside Delhi, we are yet to resolve the limitation in those cases. I think I should end here, but saying that we are worried because after the abrogation of Article 370, after introducing the formulas which are essentially the state subject, and now trying to bring in cooperatives under the union list, we feel that the erosion is much bigger. If we think that the Article 42, the 42nd Amendment eroded certain amount of the state rights, what we are witnessing right now is a much bigger erosion of the state rights. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, abrogation of Article 370, converting a state into 2 union territories, is a major concern when it comes to cooperative federalism. Plus, the whole issue is the concurrent list is the hallmark for any cooperative federalism in the division of powers. Because concurrent list is the area where the negotiation and discussion between the center and state happens. But concurrent list, if concurrent list subjects are allowed to be misused by the center in its favor to erode the state's powers, that will lead to the disruption of federalism in the country.